Now, as for our topic, we'll be discussing the dynamic digital transformation of business, exploring the questions of how AI, blockchain, AR, VR, API economy, 3D printing, data analytics, and Internet of Things can impact our organizations. Leading us through this topic is Deacon Rich Napoli. Rich has over 40 years of experience in software and recently retired as the CEO of Relevance, Inc., a software engineering firm that builds digital products for Fortune 500 companies and other software companies. He has served on a variety of boards to include the Philly Legatus chapter and Holy Spirit Radio, where he also hosts a radio show. He is currently on the board for the Health Standards Organization in Canada and the Bush School of Business at the Catholic University of America. He is a regular speaker on the practical use of advanced technologies, and he is also a deacon, ordained in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia in 2011, and is currently on assignment in the Diocese of Arlington. Please give Deacon Rich Napoli a warm welcome.
All right, hello everybody. For those of you poor souls who are getting to listen to me a second time, sorry. But this afternoon, it kind of leads off the topic that our keynote gave at lunch, just about how much technology has changed in these last few years and how it's going to even change more going forward. And how businesses and you know, potentially even the church, I mean, how businesses must change in order to stay competitive and to survive. So I usually start with a little joke, you know, talk about companies facing extinction. Well, let's look at extinction theories, right? Dinosaurs, you know, the asteroid came and wiped out everybody out. Okay, that kind of extinction there's not much you can do about. But what about some other theories? Where the dinosaurs are sitting, it's like, oh, was that today? Or maybe some more active ones, right? Where this is, you can't really see back there, this is the ark filled with giraffes and monkeys and elephants, and this is the ark filled with dinosaurs and getting fired upon. And that kind of also applies to businesses, right? Will they get left behind? Or would they be on the firing end of disruptive change or on the receiving end of disruptive change? And that's what we want to talk about. These technologies that are coming and then are already here are making and enabling businesses to completely transform and re-envision how they engage with customers and how they build out. I'm going to skip some of this because he did a pretty good job on a much better single slide of showing the advance of technology. And I lived through most of this. I wrote my first software program in 1972, so I lived through a lot of this. But there was an industrial age of digital computing where we were pretty much just automating, not even automating, just providing some basic inventory data and payroll data for an existing industrial business. And then the information age, things were still pretty much the same, still the same factories, but now IT was doing a better job of automating some of these existing tasks and generating a ton of data along the process. But that data was kind of siloed, and it made it difficult to digest. But during that time, you know, birth of the internet, birth of iPhones, birth of the modern cloud, birth of social media all happened during that age. It's interesting, we cut off the ages in different, he has every 14 years, I like that better than mine. But now, you know, in the dawn of the digital age for the last 20 years, new technologies that came out of those big companies he mentioned, Amazon, Google, Apple, Facebook, were open source tools that enabled everybody to take advantage of the massive scalability that they built in. Massive ability to consume data, massive ability to publish and advertise at scale. And really, Amazon and lots of people got involved in creating the cloud, but Amazon played a major role there because they had all this excess capacity left over from, they had to support Black Friday, and because of that, they had to have all of these computers sitting around for the rest of the year, so they decided to sell it. We're going to talk about some of these technologies, but the idea is that businesses are pivoting to create software that engages customers and fulfills orders and uses data analytics in new ways. I'm going to give you a few examples of what that looks like. But basically, this is my tagline. I sold Matt on this talk. So look, technology has gone from supporting the business in the old days to driving the business, and now it is the business in so many industries, and it will be the business in so many industries. Just think about, look at a car ad on TV. When do you hear them talking about, performance and handling? And it's all about, I got I can have blindside detection, I have automatic stopping if I hit somebody. That's all software. Anyway, I'm going to talk about, digital transformation is more than what IT has typically done, IT, information technology in our organizations. It's not just information, not just transaction, but it's trust, it's engagement. It's not just point in time, it's real time. It's not just data, but insights. And I'm not going to go. The digital transformation, Harvard Business School defines it as, I'm sorry, you can't read it in the back. This is like my notes up here now because it's so small. But Harvard Business School defines it as the evolution of organizations, processes, and systems, and talent to leverage the full possibilities offered by digital technologies, which we'll talk about, including data analytics, AI, blockchain, and so on. But it's a complete rethinking of the business. It's not just, we used to say, paving the cow paths. It's not just automating what's already been done. It's completely rethinking the business. I'll give you some examples here. And why now? The other thing is, some of these technologies didn't exist. Even 10 years ago, they didn't exist. So things that were impossible are now possible. And the barriers to entry are much lower now than they've ever been. And our expectations are raised. We expect this kind of stuff. That's why now. And COVID actually has a lot done to accelerate. Digital transformation was always on people's roadmaps to take place over the next 10 years. That got pulled in by like 6 to 7 years because of COVID. All right, so some of these he mentioned in his session there. Some of these you guys, you're too young to even know what they are, but film industry, computing, records. Who remembered Blockbuster and Gone? Yeah, right? Gone from Netflix. Newspapers pretty much gone. Malls pretty much gone because of digital extinction. As he was saying, it happens, slowly for a while, and then happens all of a sudden fast, and you're like, where'd that come from? Because these changes are fundamental. A great example of digital transformation everybody already knows, right? Uber, right? One of the largest taxi companies in the world, but owns no cars and and employs no people, right? No drivers. And they didn't even really do anything new. I mean, they just exploited all the existing technology. The internet, the global positioning system, cellular technology, 5G and that kind of stuff, mobile phones, payment networks, social media, but they put it all together and changed everything, right? Because think about this. The old taxi and limo model used to have a very high point of entry, $1 million to buy a medallion that gave you the authority and ability to drive a taxi. Gone. And you as a customer, the random interaction, like waiting for a taxi to happen to show up to you, gone. Took advantage of all the vast number of underutilized cars, created the whole gig economy, really, single-handedly. The whole idea of a gig, meaning a side hustle kind of a deal. Anyway, and then they've expanded it. They didn't just do driving. Now they've expanded to Uber Eats and Uber Freight. And, they've taken this platform that they've created and have continued to expand on top of it. So that's a classic example of a digital transformation, thinking about the same problem. How do I get people from A to B? And coming up with an entirely new model for how to do it. That's a great example of digital transformation. I'll give you a few others. Who thinks that the skiing in business can be digitized? It's like, what? I'm still going to be on a slope. I'm still going to have skis. Yes. But they went ahead and gamified. They put RFID tags. You all got your, you go on a slope, you get your lift ticket, right? They put an RFID tag on the lift ticket. And so they can tell what lift you went up on. They can tell when you get to the top, when you get off. And they have sensors all down the slopes. They can tell which slope you went down. They can tell how fast you went down. And then you can compete with your friends and say, Lindsay's time was 27 minutes, and I'm 9 seconds behind Lindsay. I better step it up. And then you can say what percentage of the trails did I meet, what percentage of the trails did was I ranked number 1 or number 2. I mean, it just, it's a whole different way. Even though the fundamentals don't change, just like taxis, you're still picking up a passenger and dropping them off. This same thing, you're still going up to a hill and down, but now I can interact, I can see what's up at the top of the hill, I can make restaurant reservations at the top, I can hook up with my friends, I'm gonna be on this slope at this time. All kinds of things that you weren't even thinking about as it relates to skiing. Healthcare is huge, being disrupted as we speak. I picked out just one example here because I just think it's cool. The biggest challenge doctors have is how do you know that the patient took the medicine and they took the right dosage? Well, they put a little tiny sensor inside the pill. And when you ingest it, it's like a potato battery, you remember in school? And so it fires up that little sensor just long enough to survive to send a signal to your cell phone, which sends a signal to your doctor that says you took the pill. I mean, that's, again, thinking about things in a very different way to solve the same problem. Energy, all kinds of things going on, tracking wind speeds and turbines, putting tools in the hands of the technician that lets him see what's going on, lets him pull up a repair manual when he's in the field. Things that we just didn't think about. This one amazes me. Agriculture, all right, you're a farmer. How high-tech can farming get? They're now micro measuring as they go down the rows here to look at the exact soil composition for every inch of their planting and deciding what seeds to put in based on the soil that they're encountering at that moment to maximize crop yields. They have sensors on machines that can tell their harvest rates, so they can feed back to the commodities industry and saying what's their yield like, and that's affecting commodity prices. Again, things you don't think about that much. Automotive, obviously, Elon Musk. I'm a big car guy. I'm not a big Tesla guy. I mean, it's a great piece of software. Not necessarily a great car, but it's a great piece of software. And COVID changed the whole buying process. Gone are the days mostly where you go in and have that high pressure haggle with the salesman. Now you do it all. What was that TV ad with I can't remember, Carvana, one of those ones where they show a high pressure sales situation, then the whole thing flips and you just picking up a car. They pull up a car right in front of his house. I'm not going to go through that. Home Depot, doing a lot. Financial industry has already been largely digitized, but continues to go, especially with the advance of cryptocurrencies and things. All right, I want to spend a few minutes on some of these technologies so that you get a basic understanding of what they are and how they work and what they might be used for. But the idea is to get you thinking about how they could be used either in your business or, more importantly, for us as Catholics, in how can we use this for the greater glory of God? How can we improve the evangelization of the world? I mean, I'm teaching a class next semester at Catholic University, and one of my themes is, you've heard of WWJD, right? What would Jesus do? I'm turning it to WWJD, what would Jesus digitize, right? Because imagine, you're going to see these technologies, and the question is, what if Jesus was here today? I mean, he's here, right? What if he's walking in the flesh here today? How would he choose to use some of these technologies? And which ones would he not choose to do because you're losing the humanity of the connection? So, interesting. Keep that in mind as we go through here, and we'll look at each one of them a little bit. Artificial intelligence, here's a definition: the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, translation between languages. There were lots of attempts at this. I mean, I've been through a lot of this in my 40 years in the software business. We call it expert systems and decision support systems, all kinds of attempts that were originally trying to model the human brain. And thankfully they gave up on that because, as Catholics we would say, because you can't model it, it's a divine computer. So what they did though, as computers got faster, they switched and said, you know what? We don't have to be smart as a human, we just have to be faster than a human, right? We can look at trillions of solutions, like the Grandmaster chess guys, lose to AI computers, not because they understand the game better, but because they can try every permutation of every chess move every time you move. They can run through trillions of tests in a minute or two. Lots of trial and error, like I said. But they learned to get better. They learned not to try different things. And they've gotten better at certain things. So AI tends to be devoted to a particular thing. One small subset of what we do as humans, maybe like, facial recognition, maybe like text to speech or something like that. But as the best AI guys will tell you, the general brain power of the best AI today is about the size of a worm. In the sense of, we take so much for granted of what we're capable of doing in our brains, and they just can't model that yet generically, and maybe never. I mean, as a Catholic, I would say, I have no fear of artificial intelligence, and the singularity and replacing humans, and because machines don't have souls, right? They're not souls. It's still technology that we create that we can turn off, and it'll never be a replacement for humans, in my view. A couple of the limitations of AI: artificial intelligence requires real intelligence at the beginning to sort of teach it what to look for and what to emulate, right? And so that AI is only as good as the reference data that's being given to it, the samples that you're giving to it. And we're seeing all kinds of cases in AI where there's unintentional bias. Apple had to deal with it when they were just dealing with voice recognition, and they're all West Coast California guys, and they model their voices very well. And then some poor, fellow from India or a gal from the Philippines gets to try to use their voice, and it doesn't recognize at all because it was heavily biased to West Coast American English initially, right? All right, some examples: search and optimization. So, you go on Google, as I think someone was saying earlier, you type in, a beginning of a question, and it'll fill it out with the rest of the question with the most popular answer, because it's estimating in what you might be asking for. Natural language processing, NLP, being able to receive natural language in, semantically understand it, and give back natural language on the way out. Up until recently, you notice now when you do call center stuff and there's automated tellers, automated sounds, they're much better now than they used to be. They actually sound almost like you're interacting with them. Sometimes you have to find out, you ask them an out-of-the-box question just to see if they're really a computer or not. Robotic process automation is probably sounds I don't know, science fiction-y, but it's actually pretty boring. It's, in the business world, there's lots of computer systems that run a company. Typically, lots of them are acquired through acquisition, right? So they have 3 different accounting systems, 3 different ERP systems, and some poor clerk is having to enter into multiple systems. Robotic process automation can capture all those keystrokes, capture and learn, based on scenarios, what you do when you see this on the screen and what you do when you see that, and actually manually complete those things. So they're cutting down on a lot of the manual tasks that you might have to do. Deep learning, you've heard about. This is probably the most interesting ones, I think. So, the ability, again, for a computer to digest much more information than we can ever do. So IBM, the Deep Blue that they did, basically read every medical journal ever published in the history of mankind, right? And stored it and digested it so that they could start making diagnoses better than humans could, because no human could read 40 trillion pages of documents, but a giant computer could. And so we're seeing that being used in lots of ways besides just medical reasons. Optical recognition, effective computing, sentiment analysis, they call it, being able to. We did something at my company where we sampled all the tweets in the world, real time, and came up with sort of a mood. What's the mood of the earth right now? People angry? Are they happy? By country? Are they tired? Are they anxious? Whatever. Because you can actually read their text and sort of see the sentiment behind it. You can deduce the sentiment behind it. Blockchain, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I've talked about it this morning, and I think Mark did a pretty good job talking about it this afternoon. But the whole idea of a ledger, a distributed ledger that is not easily changed, it's transparent, it's secure, it's distributed, so there's no one central record that can be changed, and it's a ledger. You can only append to the end. And of course, this has got lots of examples. The cryptocurrencies are just one example. I think they represent maybe 2% of the potential of blockchain. Blockchain is the biggest thing I've seen in my 45 years of technology, other than the internet, because blockchain doesn't work without the internet. But other than the internet, this is probably one of the most significant technologies that you will ever see. It's used for all kinds of business. My company's actually built some of this stuff, supply chain management. He mentioned like Walmart. Provenance of expensive goods, Prada bags and BMW cars and so on, and their parts are being put on the blockchain. Letters of credit, ownership, so the NFTs. And now I'm going to go into all the NFT stuff again, but to be able to track ownership of not only a real good, like a car or a house, but also digital goods like music and picture and artwork and movie tickets and Ticketmaster tickets. I mean, I'm sure Taylor Swift would like to have that because she broke the internet with her ticket sales. There's the NFTs there. Yep. Okay, let's move on. I'm trying to get through here because I know we started late. Data analytics. Again, good thing that we now have open source software from Google and Facebook and Amazon that had to deal with massive scalability of data analytics, being able to digest data in a real-time fashion at massive scales and be able to interpret it and respond to that in real time. So it's a combination of technologies, but this shows you some of the, does it have a, I don't know if it has a, whatever. It doesn't have a laser, does it?
It's brand new, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we'll figure it out. But the volume of data is going way up. Now this is in zettabytes, not megabytes. I mean, I'm old enough to remember bytes, not even kilobytes. Bytes, bits, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, exabytes, zettabytes. You're that big, and look at the scale here. We're up to 35 zettabytes. And that was a few years ago. So what Mark was talking about, scale and exponential, it's happening right now with data. So I said, yeah, the tools from Google and Amazon have really propelled this forward. That not just this massive ability to digest data, but the massive ability to analyze the data in real time by being able to harness multiple computers together. You can digest it and respond in a real-time way. And data can now be read and interpreted in ways never done even just 5 years ago. So types of data analytics that you're seeing today, descriptive analytics tell you what happened in the past. That doesn't have to be as real time necessarily, but it's digesting all the data from prior events, telling you what happened. Diagnostic analytics may tell you why it happened. Predictive analytics will tell you what's going to happen in the future based on past events. And then prescriptive analytics says, what should you do based on that future prediction? What action should you take based on that possible future to avoid problems? So all different kinds of categories. Some examples. I like this one. It's an old example, but local hospital, curious as to why whenever it rains, they get a whole bunch of people with intestinal illnesses coming into their hospital, like all stomach kind of ailments. And they weren't sure what was going on, so they pulled in weather data, they pulled in residential data, like where are people living, they pulled in all kinds of municipal data, and they realized, oh, whenever it rains, there's a sewer pipe that's uncovered, that's on the list of things to be fixed, and sewer water is getting into the local municipal water supply or the well system, so people in this small area are all coming in with intestinal illnesses. That's something that, again, you maybe eventually could have figured it out, but this lets you just pull all this random data in. Doesn't have to be sorted, doesn't have to be in spreadsheets or in tables anymore. You can pull it in its raw format, in text, in images, in spreadsheets, however it exists, and you can digest it very quickly. I mentioned the tweet sentiment analysis. Social, life insurance. Who has gone through, I don't know, I'm going to make you ask. If you ever go to buy life insurance, especially whole life insurance, the old model used to be you had to make an appointment and a doctor would come to your house and wire you up and take your EKGs and blood pressure and analyze you all. And 2-3 weeks later, you'd find out whether you got the insurance or not. Well, Gen Zers and Boomers and Millennials are like, I don't want to wait that long. I want my answer now. They went through and said, you know what? It really doesn't matter how healthy you are right now. I mean, because typically people don't buy life insurance. They're buying it for sort of a future payout. And so they said, you know, we don't really care how healthy you are right now. We want to see how healthy you're likely to be over the life of your lifespan. And so they flipped the whole model. They did all kinds of analytics on social media, all the different social media sources, to sort of build a profile of you, to say, what kind of lifestyle do you lead? What, so are you married? Are you, do you sit and read books, or do you jump out of airplanes? Do you attend concerts, or do you, bird watch? And they build a profile of you, and based on that, and based on the records of what they've seen in the past, they predict how long you're going to live and give you insurance or not based on that. So they can give you an instant answer. You keyboard it in, you get approved instantly. That's part of my cue. I got to move fast. I was going to show you this. It's a great little example, but additive manufacturing, 3D printing you hear about. So think about the old printers where some of you guys don't even remember that, but the old dot matrix printers, they print out a line at a time, and eventually you get a page of data. Now imagine doing that instead of with ink, with actual material. They can print, it's a simple one printer, it's a home 3D printer, but it's actually manufacturing something for you right in front of your eyes. And they can do it not just with simple plastic stuff, they can do it with everything. They're printing cars. They're printing, not necessarily full functional cars. They're printing houses, printing medical devices. That's the one that's amazing. They can print human tissue. So that you get a skin burn, your skin's burnt, they take a sample of your skin, and they print out new skin for you. Now this is, it's only been done in a very limited way, but it's being done. It's really scary. And printing objects that we're unable to assemble. Like this object, for example, cannot be manufactured in a single piece. I mean, you could assemble lots of pieces together, but the design of it is so complex, it cannot be manufactured. But it can be printed, because the computer can just print one line at a time and build that thing. So there's certain things that can't even be done that can be done with 3D printing now. We're printing replacement parts in the field. So you're a mechanic, you're out, you're working on a turbine and you're in the middle of nowhere and you need a replacement part. You can't, it takes you, 5 hours to drive back and forth. You go to your truck and you have one of these in the truck and you print out the replacement part right there. That's what this is really mind-boggling what's potentially possible here. And if you had one, when you order something from Amazon, they won't deliver it to you. They'll just give you the plans and you print them out on your printer. This one, you can see a great example outside, right outside, the Meta Catholic guys. Is that you guys? No. But augmented reality, virtual reality, being able to augmented reality means being able to look through your glasses and you see the real world, but you see the real world augmented with things that are that the computer is projecting onto your lens. So you can see the names of stores as you're walking down the street. Google Glass did this, and they had to pull it back because they were actually telling you can walk down the street and I see a pretty girl, I can actually look her up and see her profile on Facebook and say, hey, Mary, how are you? And it got a little creepy, so they had to pull it off. And virtual reality is you see out there, the Meta Catholic guys, it's actually, you put on goggles and you no longer see the real world. You only see a projected world on inside your lens. And it's realistic enough where you stop thinking you are here and you start thinking you're inside the reality, the virtual reality. So Meta from Facebook has been pushing this a lot, but it's a long way off yet for that kind of thing. But theoretically, you could use it for gaming, obviously, medical exams. So doctors could look at as they're doing surgeries and so on, they could actually have augmentation to see what body parts they're looking at, what issues are there. Repairs. Office work, in the COVID days, instead of Zoom sessions, imagine you'd have the sense of being in a room like we are today. That's possible with this technology. Commerce, virtual reality purchases and things. There's a great little video I'd love to show you. Let's see, I might just take a break on this one because this one's cute. You can't see it, can you? Shoot. Here. Can you see that? I'm only going to show you a few seconds of it, but it's a little crazy example, but
¿Quién soy yo?
so she's on
Estoy libre de mi tristeza.
augmented reality.
One class at a time.
Hands projected out. It's off.
Adiós.
Hands on the stores. The best example of what's coming up right now. Here the area, the lights about to be That's the hyper example. I mean, this is likely to be used, but helping you have promotional sales things here.
Hola otra vez.
I'll have to give you a link for it. It's cute because it's very Catholic. It actually ends when she is gets
¿Qué está pasando? No, mis puntos. ¿Qué hago? ¿Qué es eso?
Enjoy Catholicism. Take a tour. Anyway, but that's augmented reality. I'm going to have to stop soon because we're running out of time, right? Almost time to get left. Let me jump on here and just wrap up because I could keep talking forever, as we all can. Internet of Things. That's all your connected devices, your Nest thermostats, your Alexa devices, and so on. But now it's not so much talking to you, but talking to each other. So equipment maintenance, medical devices, smart cities, being able to control traffic based on the input from the cars and what they're seeing visually with pedestrians. Sports, tracking movements of athletes. API economy I'm going to have to skip, but just think of it as it's getting a lot easier to, just when you plug a device into the wall, you don't really care what's on the other side of the wall. You just know how to plug in. That's happening with software now. This is a funny thing. I happened to be, when the Pope visited Philadelphia in 2015, I was right there as a deacon, and it kind of blew me away. Here we are at this very pious moment. Look at what every priest is doing. Every priest there has his cell phone up, taking a picture of the Pope. So there's obviously potential uses from a Catholic standpoint of all this technology. And I just threw a few things out here. Blockchain for storing sacramental records, for storing the information about priests. Where were they educated? Did they get ordained? Were there any issues, especially scandals and so on? You could put that on the blockchain. Virtual reality, maybe for lockdowns like we had with COVID. Instead of just watching Mass, you could be at Mass. You could feel like you're at Mass. Devices, I'm just making this stuff up. Devices to know when the Blessed Sacrament in adoration is unattended. Which Mass is most at least attended each day. When to hit reorder points for your wine and host if you're a sacristan. And then data analytics to reach out based on demographic profiles of your congregation and target your evangelization towards that. It's just a small list there. But the implications are, as Mark said in the last session, the next 50 years, what do you say, like 4 quadrillion times the technology that we have today? I lived through the last 50 years of technology. Most of it was pretty linear up until 2012, 2013. And then it started really taking off. And it's just going to go faster and faster and faster. But how are we going to respond? What's our obligation? Well, you're doing the right thing. You're here. That's the first obligation. You're learning. But then take some of these things I mentioned, dig in a little bit, think about how they could work. Think about the moral implications of them. What is, technology is morally neutral. It could be used for good. It could be used for bad. Think about what those are, and let's figure out. Let's take advantage. Like I said, what would Jesus digitize? What would he look at today out of all this technology and decide, this will help me spread the word faster? He was the inventor of viral marketing, right? He convinces 12 men, and now we got 2 billion Christians because of it, right? That is viral marketing. What would he do today with this kind of technology? Put yourself in his shoes and imagine that, and then let's put it to work for us. And that's it. All right, thank you.